further, can you describe for me Marjorie Taylor Greene in one word? The reason I say that is because she has this Sunday been moaning and complaining about her position and her job in relation to the CIA.
It's pretty foolish to bring a funding bill to the floor on something that the American people just don't support. And our job title is representative. Our job title is not fund the CIA's war against Ukraine. That's not what we're elected to do.
Got a clip to share with you in just a moment from Jamie Raskin with regards to Trump and the Supreme Court. But first, the Republicans have spent an awful lot of money and an awful lot of time on a nonsense, and I repeat, nonsense, investigation into Hunter Biden, the Biden family, yada, yada, yada. There's nothing there. It's interesting. This week they lost Fox and Fiennes, news hoax, and believe it or all, the person that's paid to speak from her posterior, even Tammy's had enough of it. Wow.
Both sides have been spinning this, obviously, and if this other televised hearing comes about, I can just imagine the ratings. But Jim Comer says the deposition was successful. They were able to prove several bits of our evidence. That's a quote from the congressman. The question the mainstream media keep asking is, where's the proof that Joe Biden got a dime?
Yeah, and that's going to be the difficult part for Republicans. And I got to say, as somebody who does believe there's plenty of evidence here, I think that this has failed optically for Republicans, and they've done good work. Obviously, Jim Jordan, Comer have done great work on this, but optically, it does make it seem as though they're beating up on someone with addiction issues. That's exactly what the media wanted it to look like. That's how they framed it, and unfortunately, that's what's coming to fruition. So I would encourage Republicans, I know you want to get to the bottom of this, but let's focus on the election. Let's focus on the failed policies of Joe Biden. This impeachment inquiry, unfortunately, is falling flat with a lot of viewers and voters.
Tommy and I found common ground.
You were going to endorse everything?
Trump at his rallies and whenever he's with bottom washer of the year or arse wipe of the year. In fact, there were so many people queuing up to be in that position, not sure who's in charge of wiping his arse on a daily basis. But anyway, he was on with Hannity again this week, talking about how, should be free from prosecution. As a former president, he should be immune, which seems a little bit right down the path of being a dictator. But anyway, Jamie Raskin was on with Jen Psaki this Sunday, and he would like the Supreme Court to make a really quick and swift judgment on everything. I would say the problem potentially there will be with Clarence Thomas.
I want to be crying over spilt milk, but they're going to hear it on April 22nd. I hope that we will get a decision from the court April 23rd or 24th, because as we saw in Bush versus Gore, they can move at Josh Hawley type speed when they want to get something done. And in Bush versus Gore, I think that they rendered their opinion the day after oral argument, and that's what America should expect here.
Now, there's one theory here that the reason it's been so delayed is that there is a dissent, that someone thinks that presidents are immune, or more than one person. Do you think that on this court?
Well, what they did was they opened up the question to something much larger than what needs to be decided. The very specific question is if a president engages in insurrectionary activity in order to overthrow an election, he's lost by more than 7 million votes, 306 to 232 in the Electoral College. Is he immune from criminal prosecution for criminal acts undertaken in pursuit of that plan? Well, that's a very specific and clean question. And this court has always insisted that it's a minimalist court. It wants to look at the most specific question. But here they opened it up to the far broader question of if the president engages in some actions that lead to criminal prosecution, is he subject to them depending on the definition of what's an official act and what's not?
Now, these justices know what their powers are, right? They know the court's schedule. They have the same calendar. Do you look at this court and think some of these justices may want to delay these trials?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think if you don't believe that, you're too innocent to be let out of the house by yourself at this point. I mean, this is a court driven by both Trump nominees and Bush nominees, and neither of those guys was elected with a popular vote majority. So we've got a Supreme Court that is representing the choices of minority presidents, and they have been driving very hard to overturn a whole series of precedents that America's come to take for granted, like Roe versus Wade. And we're still dealing with the tremendous aftershock of the Dobbs decision as America wakes up to the fact that it's right-wing state legislators in a lot of states now who are deciding the destiny of women.
Yeah.
Confession, I have no idea where CNN is these days. In fact, I've just typed it into my phone sat-nav. Where is CNN? And amongst the replies, I kid you not, are CNN parking deck, Centauri Olympic Park. Where else have we got here? CNN, somewhere in Atlanta. Maybe someone's having a joke. But all jokes aside, you would expect a little bit more from the former conservative news network, or whatever it's called, Dana Bash, who appears to have some resemblance of a journalist, but been listening to far too much Fox News and those people who paid Elon Musk for their blue tick, because one of the things that they love to repeat, Tucker Carlson and co, Laura Ingraham are always spouting about it, the great replacement theory, in terms of the fact that they say the reason the Democrats are letting the open borders happen, I mean, billions of people are coming in, trillions of people are crossing the border every single day, and it's the part of the great plan that they will vote Democrats and stop the Republicans ever taking power again. Or it could just be, if you look at how they behaved in the House, maybe some people think, bunch of clowns.
Donald Trump yesterday suggested that on the campaign trail that President Biden has a deliberate strategy to let migrants across the border, because he says President Biden wants to, quote, overthrow the United States and, quote, nullify the will of the actual American voters and establish a new base of power that gives them control for generations. What's your reaction to that?
Dan, I can't comment on those remarks because the Hatch Act prevents me from speaking of campaign politics. I'm incredibly proud to serve this president, an extraordinary president who's focused on working for the American people.
Let me ask you in a different context that you can answer. Is it the policy of the Biden administration to allow as many migrants to come across the border in order to change the political dynamics, the electoral dynamics of America?
Of course not. And the facts indicate that that is absolutely false. Since May of this year, of last year, we have removed or returned more individuals than in any year since 2015, and we haven't even run 12 months. Over the last 3 years, we've removed, returned, or expelled more people than in all 4 years of the prior administration. You know, the facts matter, and the rhetoric we should brush aside.